Bahman Azad is an Iranian-American peace activist who's been involved in the struggle for peace and justice in the US and around the world since the 1970s. He's a retired sociology professor, sociology and economics professor, and a representative of the World Peace Council at the United Nations, a member of the Administrative Committee of the United National Antiwar Coalition, or UNAC, as it's popularly known. He also serves as co-chair of the Venezuelan Embassy Protectors Defense Committee in Washington, D.C. He's the coordinator of the Coalition Against Foreign Military Bases and the Global Campaign Against the U.S. and NATO Military Bases, co-coordinator of the Hands-Off Syria campaign and the People's Mobilization, chair of the Iran Working Group of Veterans for Peace. His area of research includes the political economy of capitalism and socialism, and his articles on these subjects have been published in many journals, including Political Affairs, Nature, Society, and Thought. And he is the author of a book called Heroic Struggle, Bitter Defeat: Factors Contributing to the Dismantling of the Socialist State in the USSR, which was published by international publishers in New York. So Bahman, please go ahead.
It's an honor for me to be in among this group of presenting this important, very, very important topic, especially for Iranians. I have been charged with opening the whole question and issue and give it a background and a history, so our experts can really deal with the details of the problems that we are facing today. It's not easy to cover about 4 decades of developments in 10-15 minutes, so I'll be very general and talk about just the shifts and trends that have existed, and then leave the details of the discussion to our expert panel. I will start by recognizing or acknowledging several levels of changes in Iran that have started with the Iranian Revolution, and then the changes that happened in stages that led to this present situation. Iranian Revolution in 1979 was really an anti-imperialist and popular revolution, which ended about 50-60 years of Western domination of Iran. It had a religious ideology, of course, and it was not just by accident. The Pahlavi dynasty had crushed all the nationalist left forces in the country for 40-50 years, 60 years. And the only channels of activity that was left in Iran was the mosques and the religious channels. So the people of Iran rose using the banner of Islam. Many people call it Islamic Revolution, but I think it was beyond that. It went against imperialism, and it went against, it wasn't for the purpose of religious struggle. It was for liberation. And that was the essence of the revolution. Following the revolution, Ayatollah Khomeini, what is known as his political line historically, called for many fundamental transformations. First of all, the new Iranian government expelled about 60,000 US military advisors and personnel. They nationalized the banks, they nationalized the insurance industry, they nationalized foreign trade. They turned over the embassy of Israel to PLO. They changed they turned the embassy of South Africa to ANC, and made many changes in that direction, which are in line with many anti-imperialist revolutions that have happened. But this trend did not remain for long because certain things happened. The first step was the Iran-Iraq war that was imposed by the United States on Iran. And it has a tremendous impact on the balance of forces in the country. This 7-8 years of war really destroyed the Iranian economy's infrastructure, forced Iran to be an importer of all of its needs. And in that process, the Iranian merchant capital that was based on its operation was based on imports of basic needs, really gained tremendous power and wealth in the process, and gradually took over the parliament and pushed for certain changes in the direction of privatization and neoliberalism. Of course, the whole process started when Rafsanjani became the first president of Iran who moved in the direction of IMF and World Bank. He was president from 1989 to 97. And it was the beginning of the transformation of the redirection of the Iranian economy towards the IMF World Bank policies. It was with him that rampant privatizations of trade, of banks, of industry and everything else, the whole process was reversed. And that was the process that was imposed on the Iranian economy. For the past 40 years, it remained until recently, and I'll explain when it changed. So in this process, the privatizations were not just normal privatization. In many ways, they were done in a distorted way, mostly transfer of ownership to insiders and corrupt elements in the society. And given the fact that the stability in Iran was not really secure, with all the attacks of the US and threats of the US, most of these privatized segments of the economy moved towards speculation, towards kind of a middleman type of economy rather than toward the fundamental rebuilding of Iranian infrastructure. Of course, there was a trend within the Iranian Revolutionary Guard, which was given the task of reconstructing Iran after the war, which to me, it appears to me that it is the only place where really fundamental economic transformations in terms of production and capacity and technology have been developed. But other than that, the true private sector of Iran is really corrupt. It's mostly moving toward financial, banking, speculation type of activity. And because of the threats from the United States and the kind of security approach of the Iranian government to the whole movement inside the country, the degree of repression was very high for all this time. And this liberal class, neoliberal class, really took advantage of this repression because trade unions were not allowed, political parties were not allowed, and all other civil activities were restricted. So in that sense, they took advantage of the repression caused actually by US imperialism imposed on Iran because of the security threats and transferred to the public. These guys really built huge amount of capital and gradually took over the whole economy. So this class really shifted the whole orientation of Iranian economy toward the new liberal pro-West economy. Now, for these 40 years, the existence of this very class caused the United States to adopt a double-edged policy toward Iran, a kind of a carrot and stick policy. The carrot was for all these neoliberals in Iran and strengthening those forces through the smart sanctions and all kinds of things that we can discuss. And kind of a stick towards all those forces of resistance, Iranian foreign policy, Iran's role in the region, and everything else. So for 40 years, this was going on, a common double layer policy of the United States towards the Iranian situation. What changed was the emergence of China as a main competitor, the entrance of the Russian forces into Ukraine, and the fact that the world started to move toward a different order. And US was totally on the defensive, and they realized that they cannot allow this thing to happen. So started punishing any country that had any leaning toward the East. well, given the fact that the US was really punishing the resistance movement in Iran, the forces of resistance in Iran, mainly represented officially by the Supreme Leader Ayatollah Khamenei himself, decided that there's no future for Iran in the Western orbit, and as a result, they have to move toward the East. Up to this point, the neoliberal capitalist class, generally, there are categories of them, different groupings in them. Among them, I'm sure our comrades will discuss that. We're cooperating. They're working within the framework of Islamic Republic because they had their own day. You know, they were accumulating as much as they wanted to, and they were happy with it. But with this new policy, their interest was threatened because their orientation towards the West and cut off from the West would really hurt them. So they started moving toward the opposition, and they started raising the same issues that they benefited from in the past: the repression, the limitation on, free expression, and this and that. And so they decided to move toward the opposition, and of course, their move toward the opposition is definitely supported by the West. And now they're acting as a kind of fifth column, practically. I don't mean they are consciously, but they are practically acting as a fifth column, resisting the move toward the East in Iran, and sabotaging in every possible way they can in this process. Of course, they were purged from the positions of executive branch in the last elections, and now that was another reason for them, because they lost their say in some of the foreign policy issues, and they have moved fully toward the opposition camp, and that is the situation. Now the question becomes that the Iranian government, the forces of resistance in Iran are faced with a kind of a dilemma. If they continue the present state of things, their internal security, given the United States policy that it is a declared policy, it has been announced left and right, that Iran, with the strength, military strength that is created for itself internationally, and the alliances it has created, it's hard to defeat Iran on the international scene. So the focus of causing trouble must shift into the inside of the country by creating popular unrests and discontent in the country. And they have been doing that for a while, and probably one of the examples of how explosive the situation can be was this last movement, this last death of the Iranian woman, and the whole uprisings that was, totally taken advantage of by the West. Although the objection was legitimate, they took it to a different direction. They tried to take it to a different, caused a lot of trouble for Iran. And of course, the neoliberal wing took advantage of the situation also and pushed the whole affair forward in that direction. So the question becomes, can the Iranian move toward the East succeed with such vulnerabilities, internal vulnerabilities, with such a strong opposition that controls all of the economy, causes all those class divisions, inequalities, deprivations, inflation, and everything else that is inflicting Iranian economy? Can the Iranian move toward the East and joining a new orbit be successful without disarming this pro-West neoliberal capitalist class that is sabotaging every step of the move? The Iranian resistance forces, there's a division that has emerged over time right now, that the resistance forces are now controlling the military, controlling the security forces, they're controlling the foreign policy, and part of the political apparatus of the government. The opposition is controlling the whole of the economy. So the battle is going on now at these two levels. Security forces by themselves and the military cannot create internal security. That security is being threatened by all the hardship that is being brought to the public and all the discontent that the neoliberal policies are causing. Therefore, it is a question of whether the resistance forces will be able to gather the support of the disillusioned people because of the 40 years of neoliberal policies to back them up in this battle with the neoliberal economic pro-West policies or not. And if they understand that they need that kind of a support to really overcome the resistance by the pro-West forces, then there is a need, serious need for restructuring the Iranian economy in favor of the oppressed classes and exploited classes. And the issue becomes, do they have the willingness to do it? Do they have the strength to do it? Do they have the know-how to do it or not? And this is the whole battle that is going on right now within Iran. But at the present, lack of people's mass participation behind the pro-East policy. Not that the people don't want it, the people don't trust the government at this stage because of the past policies of the neoliberal pro-West people. People are not getting engaged while suffering at the same time. They don't trust that this move is also going to be another genuine one. So what is required is a genuine step by the forces of resistance to really address this issue of neoliberalism in Iran if they want to succeed on the international front. And the question becomes, what happens to Iran if they don't do it? If they want to do it, which links of the change they should move in order to successfully push forward this uphill battle that they have against the pro-West forces. I will stop here. I guess I talked too much, but I thought I should set the frame for it so that experts can really build up on the issues that are involved. Thank you.
I'm Michael Hudson. I'm appearing here for the International Manifesto Group. If you like this video and ones like it, please subscribe. For more information, go to the address on the screen.